when you do this movement we're discussing,
Yeah.
that movement reaches all the way to what's called the foramen magnum, the big hole at the base of the skull where the spinal cord exits. This move goes like way deeply.
Okay.
So you'll get your atlas to change. All kinds of stuff changes with this.
Okay.
Okay. And the last conversation we had, I showed you the relation between head position and mandible position. That when you pull the mandible back, the head comes forward, and when you bring the mandible forward, the head comes back. That's the one.
Yeah.
So we're going to use that. What you do after you've done some of that, have I given it a name? I really haven't. We'll just call it the head tilt jaw movement. When you've done some of that, you finish by holding on to your mandible with your fingers and going straight forward and straight back. And you may notice that your mandible deviates on the way back. It doesn't go straight back. Correct yourself and cause your mandible to go straight back and straight forward.
I always deviate to the left.
So that's what you're going to self-correct. Very important.
So when you get to the point where it's about to deviate, you take it a little bit forward again and then bring it back more slowly? Or?
Well, that's certainly useful, but the core of it will be internally and deliberately causing your jaw to move backward using the muscles of biting.
Okay.
So here's the part that we're adding. It has to do with what you do with the tongue. The mandible follows the tongue.
Oh. Okay.
So it does in talking, in chewing, in going, all of that. The tongue is the leader. So what we do there is when you're pulling your mandible back, you also draw your tongue in. And when you're letting the mandible come forward, you do so by moving your tongue very slightly forward and using your tongue to regulate how much forward you come. If your tongue is sticking out, it's way too far forward.
Okay.
You just draw your tongue into your throat, and then you control how much forward your jaw moves by how much forward you move your tongue.
Okay.
And you point with your tongue the direction you want your jaw to move, your mandible.
Okay.
So that'll be the thing to do for now. It's very interesting. That action goes all the way into the body core, goes down the inside of the chest, all the way to the stomach. And I suspect with more practice we'll go further than that.
Might go all the way to China.
In which case you could get Chinese food.
Okay, so I'm going to do the movement with the tongue, bringing in the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I've done that, in the same session, you want me to do, what was the second thing?
Mandible straight forward, straight
right,
back.
right. End it with that.
Yeah, and don't use your index fingers.
Oh.
Use your little finger. That's a lot easier. You see what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Way easier. Use the little fingers that are closest to the center.
Okay.
And you can use one or two, but just use the little fingers. Okay.
And keep the head very level, the chin.
Yeah, when you're doing the chin, the mandible straight forward and back, then you keep your head level.
Okay, so find the neutral position and then begin the exercise.
Exactly. Your head is now neutral position, level, and you're moving your mandible straight forward out and straight back in. Again, aiming with your tongue.
Right, tongue. But when you taught it to me, wasn't it that we started and you wanted it to be started at the back and then moved a little closer and closer to the front of the mouth? The mandible? Yes. So that's the zigzag, I mean. You're going sideways and then a little closer to the front, a little closer to the front, a little closer to the front. Holding the tongue, and then when you get all the way, come back to neutral and then do the forward and back.
Right. Moving your cranium the opposite way to the way your mandible is moving.
Yeah.
So the zigzag first, finish with the zigzag, and do straight forward, straight back of the mandible.
Right.
When your mandible comes forward, your head comes back. When your mandible comes back, your head moves forward.
Okay, and do you use your tongue with that too?
Yeah.
Okay.
And do not do this in restaurants, parks, public places, on television. Do it in the privacy of your own home.
Yeah.
I showed you last time how to do it in quick returns. Rhythms of 3. Forward, back, forward. Back, forward, back.
Right.
Forward, back, forward. So when you're doing this forward and back movement of the mandible, do it in that rhythm. Forward, back, forward. Hold and remember the feeling. Then back, forward, back, and remember the feeling.
Okay.
Okay. So that's your next step, and those two moves have huge effects. As I'm working with this, I'm feeling it get into my thoracic part of the torso, the upper back.
Where do you sit on the edge of your bed, or do you stand in front of the mirror, or what do you do? Where do you like to do it?
Oh, given how I live, I usually get up from sleep, and I do a few just sitting up in bed. You can do it sitting in a chair. You can do it any position. You can do it standing. The only thing that you don't do at this point is doing it lying on your side, because that's an alternate pattern, and until you get the simple basic pattern down, you don't introduce all variations.
I think my neck feels better already.
By George.